What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Happy Friday to you folks. Happy Friday. You know what we do, regular consumers. You know what we do around here. We do something called a faith based Friday. Let me just get everything shared out real quick. Got an incredible message to get out to you all. Make sure we're all good. Facebook, what's happening? What's happening? Share that out. And let me go on YouTube real quick and get everything squared away. Here we go. Mic check. Facebook, what's happening? YouTube, we up. We are live and ready to roll. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day you're consuming this evergreen material. Hope you're having an incredible day. In fact, as usual, I know you're having an incredible day because you are getting to listen to this, and we got to take that win. You got to take the win of just being able to consume something positive that goes into your brain, that goes into something that you can be doing that's going to be to your benefit. So first and foremost, let me just introduce myself to anybody that may be new to this world, new to this channel, new to what I'm all about. My name is Aswan Crookshank. I am your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current 5-time, soon to be 6-time published author and educator. I created this whole system, this whole brand, this whole philosophy that's all about taking the innovative teamwork lessons that you learn on the football field and aligning them with businesses and business owners so they have a group of employees, they have a staff that moves as efficiently and cohesively and has that same passion, that same eagerness to it as a championship high school football team does. You want to mirror those two worlds. That's what I've done. That's what we translate around here in the Move Swiftly world. All right. So before I get into what we do every single Friday around here, what we do every single Friday is something called a faith-based Friday, where I go over the sermon that got it. All right. Where I go over the sermon that the pastor preached. I do regularly attend church. I regularly attend Life Church. I pay my tithes there. I'm actually a group leader at Life Church. I haven't gone to Life Church in a couple weeks, but I do catch the sermons on YouTube. And it's either I'm going to be at Life Church or I'm going to a church by the Glades with my girl and all that. So one of the two, I'm always going to pretty much, for the most part, every Sunday. I didn't go this Sunday only because there was a baseball game, but typically most Sundays I'm there. What I do is I make sure I listen to the sermon going into my Fridays. You know, the reason I call it faith-based Friday is because I think it's just as important to take in the message going into your Friday as it is on Sunday, because a lot of decisions, speaking on my behalf and speaking in my world, a lot of decisions that I could be making on a Friday night and decisions going into the weekend can be detrimental. So it's important that, you know, you keep the word prevalent, you keep that same energy that you had Sunday morning when you heard the sermon. You want to keep that same energy Friday morning or Friday night as well, so you can get through the weekend and make the responsible decision. So I decided to call it Faith-Based Friday, so that message is reinforced. And again, I'm not judging. I'm more so doing it, speaking for myself, because I know myself on a Friday night, especially if we're talking about, you know, being out here in South Florida, you got a little money now, you out here, bar, you doing your thing. You know what I'm saying? You got to just be smart. And that's why I named it Faith-Based Friday, or why I decided to do a Faith-Based Friday. And doing that, actually, I started doing that, you know, having that mentality is really how I met my girl. You know, the person that I did meet, it started after I started doing Faith-Based Friday, like the mentality and the way I approach life and the way I think and all that kind of stuff. All of this was happening because I was already in the process of developing a system. All right. So this is important stuff. I'm going to start giving you a sermon now, right? You got to do things for yourself, by yourself, develop a philosophy, develop a mindset, develop a way of thinking, develop a strong value system. And then the right people start getting drawn to you based upon how you speak, how you operate, the actions you take, the challenge challenges, that the way you take on challenges, the way you take on obstacles, all of that stuff goes into what you are originally, what's in you, what's fundamentally in you. All right. That's what it's all about. All right. So before I start preaching myself, let me get through the announcements. And seeing that I didn't attend the church like physically, I had to go back. And this isn't the sermon from last Sunday, it's a sermon from 2 Sundays ago at Life Church. I had to go back and listen to this. And then one of the cool things about Life Church is the fact that Pastor Rochelle is always bringing on guest speakers to do the sermon. So I went and listened to his sermon. I did it Sunday, and then I did it this morning as well. So I listened to it twice. It's a very, very powerful one. It's all about exactly what we're discussing right now, where, you know, you have to guard your heart. You have to make sure you're putting the right things around you, because the devil, the folks that are here on attack and attacking you, they are here to, they do it in they're very, very manipulative and they're very good at attacking you in vulnerable moments, and you got to be aware of those vulnerable moments. All right, so here we go. Before I start preaching again, let me get through some announcements. Really, really quick. Business owners, as I mentioned in the intro, freeguide.makeyourmove.com. That is freeguide.makeyourmove.com. We work from a very simple formula here, which is establishing measurables, creating a professional distance. That equals the productive environment that you want, that you deserve, that you need to have in your business. All right, go to freeguide.makeyourmove.com and you will get sent over a 10-step process that you can utilize right now to get the ball rolling and start moving in the direction you want to move in your business. Next thing, if you don't want no free guide and you're like, look, I just need someone to come in and speak directly to my organization, teach them this mentality, teach them how to be entrepreneurs, teach them how to, consistently grow. It's right there available for you. Just go to makeyourmove.com. That's MakeYamove.com. You can shop, you can pick up a couple copies of my book. You can book me to speak. You can do all the research you need on me, which is important that you do. All right, it's important that you do when you bring in somebody in to speak, because we're talking about a lifetime relationship. I'm not planning on coming and doing one employee development workshop. We're going to be doing them yearly. So we're constantly set up. So we're constantly filtering out folks that are not ready for the job. All right, not ready for the job. So that's what the system's all about. That is makeyourmove.com. That's MakeYamove.com. All right, let's get into the sermon. JP Luda. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I did listen to the sermon already previously, and it was a powerful one. There's a couple points I'm going to be making. If you're not clear on how this works, how Faith-Based Friday works, is I let the sermon play, and then I'm trying to get rid of this thing here. I let the sermon play, and then there's certain points that I make. There's certain timestamps that I have written down that I will kind of, scrub through, and, we'll address it. We'll talk about it and kind of go from there. So without further ado, I will let him take it away.
I wrote the book, Your Story Has a Villain. I went on a podcast tour, which took me over to California. I flew into San Diego, and then I was driving up the coast to LA. I called a pastor friend because I knew he pastored in that area. He said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to Santa Monica." He said, "No, you're not." I said, "Why not?" He said, "Because there's a fire." Well, in Texas, where I'm from, when there's a fire, they put it out. But I learned that he was saying Santa Monica's on fire. And so I didn't go there. And it was such a wild experience even being there. Just to give you a picture, when I flew out, this is what the fire looked like. This is what you would see from the airplane. And it's weird to see, like, okay, that's what it looks like from afar. But when you're actually in it, like the firemen who are fighting for their lives and fighting to save lives, like this is what they're engulfed in. But the really strange thing was, before I got on that airplane, I went to Venice Beach just to see how close I could get to the fire. And it was strange. People were skateboarding. They were just going about their normal business. What you see in the distance there, that smoke in the distance, that's the fire that I showed you from the plane. That's the fire that the firemen are fighting. And yet right to my right, where I took this picture, there's a guy on the beach getting a massage. It's almost as though unless you're in the fire, unless you're fighting the fire, you're oblivious to the fire. You're not aware of it.
Yep.
And as I think about that, I think that's spiritual warfare for us.
Yes, it is.
We're like, oh, I'm a Christian. There's angels, there's demons. I've got an enemy. My story has a villain. And I didn't even really think about it today. And I know that I'm to fight. I got to fight. I got to put my spiritual armor on. I got to do work. I spent the last 3 years studying this closely. And what I want you to know is you have an enemy. He hates you. He is strategically working against you, and he has an army of brilliant soldiers. They are not in any way afraid or intimidated of you. They are terrified of Jesus. Terrified. No match, not dualism, not equal and opposing forces. There's God, creator of the heavens and the earth. And then there's these demonic forces that are waging war against us. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 4 calls him the little g, lowercase g, God of this world. So he has some authority here. But greater, 1 John 4, verse 4, greater is he who is in us than he who is in the world. That's the good news. And so we are fighting or standing, I'll show you from the scripture, from a place of victory. And probably my biggest takeaway in being entrenched in this reality is that if you just pursue Jesus as the scripture calls you to, you're good. You are
okay. So
protected.
Real quick on that point, because you hear stuff like that all the time, and I often give the advice. I remember actually going back to my alma mater, Stony Brook University. It was one year which I just happened to be in New York, so I drove out to Long Island and just visit some of my old teammates and some of the things that they were, asking me about being now in the real world. And I remember telling them, the best advice I can give you is just be yourself. Be yourself. And the response was, if that's it, just be yourself. Is just like that, because it sounds easy when you say it, right? It sounds easy, but it's not easy. It's not easy. The same way he just mentioned, just simply follow Jesus. It sounds easy, but it's not easy. It's not easy when you're surrounded by all these distractions. It's not easy when there's all sorts of pressures in the world and pressures in terms of how the human nature takes you here and human nature takes you there. You are doing something because you want to provide for this, provide for that. It's not an easy thing. It sounds simple. Yes, 1000%, but it is not an easy process to do these things. All right. What he mentioned at the beginning, at the intro, in terms of how your enemies are absolutely brilliant. Hear me. He was spot on. Your enemies and the people that are here to sabotage you. Okay. They're not doing it. They're not doing it directly to you. That's not an intentional thing. It's something that they're programmed. It's like someone who's a racist, a prejudiced person. There's something fundamentally wrong with the racist. All right. Whether you're a racist towards black folk or you're racist towards white folk, it doesn't matter. There's something fundamentally wrong with a person who can only look at a skin color and say that person's X, Y, and Z. And I'm going to make judgments and stereotypes, and I'm going to create some narrative because that person, I see this person as a skin color. There's something fundamentally wrong with a person who thinks like that. That is the issue. The issue is the people who are here to attack you, the folks that are here to sabotage you. They are brilliant folks because they're not even clear on the fact that they're here to attack you. They don't even know you. That is the issue. So when he talks about them being brilliant, it's important that we put up we make sure we're protected within how we operate, how we follow the word, and making sure there's some fundamental values and fundamental principles that we can stand on. So let me get through. So when he wrote the book, Preparing with the Armor of God, I'm going to remember 9. Guard your heart, walk in truth. So walk in truth. So I'm going to scrub through it like around right here, and then we'll go from there. Go ahead.
Yourself with alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
Starving yourself.
Go.
Your struggles against demons that hate you and want to use people to make you angry.
Yep.
They delight in you poisoning yourself with alcohol.
Yes, they do.
Starving yourself. They receive it as worship when you throw up your food. When you give yourself to people you're not married to, they delight in that. Therefore, verse 13, put on the full armor of God so that when the day of evil comes, I think it's the moment of your greatest temptation, that in that moment you may be able to, what's the word? Stand your ground. And after you have done everything to what? Okay, it's not fight, it's stand. He's like, from God's power, you stand firm. You put on the full armor of God. You live the Christian life. You operate in faith. Stand firm then, verse 14, with the belt of truth buckled around your waist. And so as we're describing someone who has a real relationship with Jesus, the first thing that person is doing is they're walking in truth. They walk in truth. And so there's a war over what is true.
Mm-hmm.
And most of us are not on a truth journey. We're on a happiness journey.
Ooh.
And you're watching a younger generation say, well, that's your truth, and that's his truth, and that's her truth, but this is my truth. No, there's capital T truth. And Jesus says, when you find it, then you will find freedom.
All right, I gotta stop. Because that was the part. As I was listening to the sermon this morning, and I was listening to it this past Sunday, that was the part that hit an MFing nerve. All right. It hit an MFing nerve with me because he is 1000% right. All right. Too often, and this is the repercussions. Now, we are living in my opinion, the greatest time there is to be alive right now. Social media, AI, the connectedness, how connected we become. I am not one of these old heads that are just is complaining about the new forms of technology and the way that these young kids are able to really dream and build things and build relationships with folks that they don't even have to meet in person anymore. That is an incredible opportunity. However, the trade-off was exactly what he just mentioned. Human nature is human nature, all right? And too often do we see people more so are thinking about their own happiness versus what the truth is, versus what's best for others, versus what's best for the people that depend on them to make great decisions. You're more so thinking about how many likes do I get, how many views can I get, how many, all about me. That's the repercussion. That's a trade-off to society. And what we have to do as adults, what we have to do as people who've kind of lived in the new worlds and seen these new things come up, we got to make sure we're preaching to these young people, hey, the new forms of technology, the new things that you have is great. These new tools and these new toys that you have to play with, they're excellent things. But you as a human brain, you have to guard your heart. You have to guard situation. You have to make sure you're walking in truth, not in happiness, not walking in terms of this is how many likes I can get and how many subscribers and all the other stuff that too many people pay attention to. Are you walking in your truth? Are you looking in your truth? Are you speaking from the heart? Are you talking in a way where if you had a conversation with somebody online right now, and then you went and had a conversation with that same person offline, is it going to be the same exact energy, the same exact mentality? Are you walking in truth? When you walk in truth, these kinds of opportunities open up for you. But if you're walking in just you wanting to be happy, and this is why it gets so confusing, because too often do you hear folks say, oh, I just want you to be happy. I just want you to be happy. You hear it as if it's a positive thing. And it is. In many ways, it is. But actual truth is more important than your happiness. All right. And the truth is, and listen, there's going to be some things in life that are not going to make you happy. But that part of the reason happiness is such an important thing is because there are dark days. It's because there are things that are going to be difficult and challenging for you to get through. And if you ignore those things, if you decide to brush those things off, then the happiness will never come. It will never come. It's never going to be there. Even if it is there, it's not going to feel the same. I was having this conversation the other day with my boy Ed. It's like if you walk into a mansion every single night, every single day, it takes literally maybe a week before you're walking into that mansion and you realize that really not that big of a deal anymore, right? Unless you work for it. If you didn't work for it, if you didn't bust your ass and say, okay, I lived here, now I have my own mansion, then you can kind of look back and think about the things that you lived through and what it took, and you're going to appreciate the furniture, you're going to appreciate your fish tank, you're going to appreciate the chandelier, you're going to appreciate the windows, you're going to appreciate all of that if you worked for it and then you bought the mansion based on the work you put in. But if you wake up on a mansion, it's like the old saying, a baseball saying is like, you started on third, but you act like you hit a triple. All right, you didn't hit a triple, you started on third base. If you just wake up in the mansion because you were born in the right family, then the mansion doesn't seem like it's not a big deal. I mean, we use the same, and then we start talking football, and you use the same example of, let's say you go play for Alabama. Let's say you're a player and you go play for Alabama, right? It takes one day, they recruit you, they show you the facilities, they show you everything. It's a great setting. It takes one day at an Alabama football practice for you to realize it doesn't mean a damn thing, because at the end of the day, you got to show up and you got to ball. That's the difference, man. All right, I'm pretty. Let me let him go.
So we have to start by knowing and understanding what's true, getting a grasp on what is true and standing in it, and with the breastplate of righteousness in place. So my second point is acting in righteousness. The breastplate would guard your heart. What I want you to know about your heart is it works like Netflix. You guys know how Netflix works?
Yep.
Oh, you like Office Space? How about The Office? What about Suits? You like Gossip Girl? How about Gilmore Girl? How about Outer Banks? How about The Summer I Turned Pretty? Like, it takes what you look at and it gives you more of it. That's how the heart works. Man, I get done preaching, and for a long time, as Pastor Craig said, I ministered to young adults, and it was like Groundhog Day, same conversation. Young woman would come up and say, Pastor, I need help, relationship advice. I only date losers. I'm only attracted to losers. Can you help me? And I'm like, well, let me ask you a question. What's your favorite song? Who's your favorite artist? So, no. I'm looking for relationship advice. We'll get there. Just humor me for a second. Who are you listening to? So, I don't know, like Sabrina Carpenter, Please, 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 Espresso, Drake, Virginia Beach. Man, anything by Taylor, honestly, like Queen Taylor, like she's amazing. And okay, all right, I got you. What are you watching? Relationship advice? No, we're gonna get there. What you watching? Oh gosh, Love Island. Yeah, but I don't understand why I only date losers. It's because you're systematically training your heart to date losers. You're feeding your heart the algorithms. You're giving the enemy a foothold. They're like, we got one.
Yep.
We got one. You can watch her hurt herself over and over and over by getting in dead-end relationships that go nowhere because of what she feeds her heart. We want the freedom to pursue whatever we want to pursue, but try and stop. That's not freedom. You want the freedom to vape? Try and stop. You want the freedom to look at pornography? Try and stop. That's not freedom. It's slavery.
Exactly. Enough said. Exactly. You got to do these things. I mean, again, as always, because we're running short on time, I usually like to keep these 30 minutes. I'm going to scrub towards the end when he starts making another powerful point. But one thing I want to make sure I say about that is the systematic way in which you think that stuff is so available, and it is so doable. All right, it's doable. I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's doable. It's doable. I mean, it's been a year now for myself. Even I have not watched a pornographic video in a whole year. We're approaching a whole year at this point, and it came because of somebody recommending another pastor who was preaching, and he used to be a porno star, and then he became a preacher, and then hearing his story and some of the things that he lived through, I realized, hey, this is something that needs needs to get control over, and you have got to stop doing it. That's the real freedom, is when you're not moving in a direction where you're constantly being a slave to something that is not going to be beneficial to you. All of these things happened before I met my significant other. Again, the work you do on yourself is the things that you need to be holding yourself accountable for. All right. Hold yourself accountable for your actions. When you hold yourself accountable for your actions, the right people start coming into your world. And it's a true relationship. It's not just about happiness. It is not as one on here telling you that me and her are just happy all day. We're just worrying about happy. No, it's not the case. There was a fight. There was like fights. There's emotion. There's actual going back and forth, and angry text messages going back and forth, and angry conversations. That's the way it's supposed to work. That's called doing life. A true life, not moving in a happiness, not moving in a way where everybody's just happy and just saying how much you love each other and all that. There's a time and a place for that, but then at some point, truth has to be spit. Truth has to be talked out, and people actually have to have real conversation. That is what needs to happen in every aspect. Now, I'm using her as an example, but it's in every single relationship in your life, personal, professional, or romantic. I don't care what it is. When you move in that direction, you get filled with abundance. All right, abundance, because it's like a glow that person, man, you got the Lord in you. You're standing on principles. You have something in you that is like, woo, we gonna just get there no matter what. Okay, let me because I'm preaching. Let me get to the part of the sermon that really hit me. 19, I think. Let me see, 19. All right, so we'll let it play, and then I'll close you out. Standing firm on faith. All right, go ahead. Take him to church now. Take him to church.
Touch me. And I was like, no, he's had too much to drink. I'm taking him home, man. We don't want to do this. And they get guys do that, but that's what he's like. What are you looking at? And then they're chest to chest, and like I'm a believer, but I'm brand new. Like I just, I don't even know what I'm doing yet. I don't know any Bible, and I just go up and I break them up. And this little guy here, he's like, don't touch me. And I was like, no, he's had too much to drink. I'm taking him home, man. We don't want to do this. And they get chest to chest again, and I separate them again. And he's like, I told you, don't touch me. I said, hey, man. How you doing there, buddy? I'm trying to take him home. You don't have to, and he does this really bold thing. He pulls out his phone and he pushes a button. He goes, hey, you here? All right, good. I got something I want you to take care of. And I'm like, who was that? Batman? I'm like, what in the world? We go outside. And two of the biggest dudes I've ever seen in my life, they're like, these the guys. I'm like, no, sir, they laughed. And I just remember the look of confidence on that young man's face.
Yeah, this is a great example.
I'm like, there's 8 of us and just one of you. He's like, you don't know who I know, man.
Yes.
You don't know who I know.
Great example. Great example.
So then that.
Great example.
Greater is he. 1 John 4:4. Greater is he that is in you than the one who's in the world.
In you. So to give you some backstory, he basically told a story about a smaller guy who was about to get into a fight, and he was there to break it up. And then he called some bigger guys that were, obviously able to handle the business. And he's using the analogy to where when the enemy starts attacking you, and the enemy will attack you, we've established that. We know how they do it. They're very, really good. They're really, really good at doing this. They're brilliant people. They know how to use a lot of fancy language to attack the good work that you're trying to do. You got to stand firm, because greater is he. Let's read it here. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. So whoever is in the world trying to attack you, you got to have a touch of God in you. All right? You got to have a touch of God in you that makes it so you stand firm on your principles. You don't succumb to the unethical and ridiculous things that the world tries to throw at you to make you seem like you're the villain, or you're doing something immoral, or you're doing something that is necessarily wrong, that you're moving in an unrighteous way and all that kind of stuff. Greater is he in me. And there has to be some principles that has to be in you. And it has to be something that you can spit out and be ready for. All right. So again, all that being said, strongly recommend you guys go listen to the full sermon. If you are a business owner, don't forget, main website to check out to dive deeper into all the work I'm doing, everything I'm about. It's makeyamove.com. That's MAKEYAMOVE.com. One-stop shop for your teamwork and your self-development needs. As one, Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, checking out. You guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.